There are literally hundreds of different types and styles of spirit from each and every country. In this presentation, we'll focus on just the most common ones here in Australia. Whisky is an umbrella term used to describe a type of distilled alcoholic beverage made from fermented grain mash and usually aged in wooden casks. Various grains, which may be malted, are used for different varieties, including barley, corn, rye, and wheat. Whisky is strictly regulated with many classes and types. Scotch whisky is a blended whisky distinct to Scotland. Only whisky made in Scotland may be referred to as Scotch or Scotch whisky. Single malt Scotch whisky is produced in Scotland. This whisky is produced through the pot still method of distillation from a mash consisting of only malted barley. Single malt scotches are usually darker in colour than blended scotches, as they spend extra time aging in casks. Blended Scotch whisky is made from as many as 50 different types of malt and grain whiskies. When an age of the Scotch is stated on the bottle, it identifies the youngest whisky in the blend. The distinctive flavour of Scotch comes from the malted barley that is dried over peat-fueled fires and later distilled into a liquid. Only whisky produced in Ireland can be called Irish whisky. It is a distinct product of Ireland. It is blended whisky made from a mash of cereal grains, mostly barley, both malted and unmalted, wheat, oats, corn and rye. Most Irish whiskies are made in pot stills as they impart a unique taste and are triple distilled to produce a lighter, smoother spirit. Bourbon whisky, also known as American whisky. Bourbon derives its name from Bourbon County, Kentucky, where this particular type of whisky was developed. Only whisky produced in America can be called bourbon. Bourbon whisky is made of a combination of spring water, corn, rye, and barley malt. It must be made of a minimum of 51% corn, but no more than 80%. Tennessee whiskey, made in Tennessee, is charcoal filtered prior to aging to eliminate impurities and add the flavour in charred oak barrels. The most famous whisky in this category is Jack Daniel's. Rye whisky is made from a mixture of grains, including at least 51% rye. It has the strong, distinctive flavour of caraway seeds. Canadian whisky is a distinct product of Canada. It is made in Canada and it is made only from grains such as corn, rye and barley malt. It can be bottled after 3 years of age. The most common brand in Australia is Canadian Club. Moving on from whisky, we come to rum. Rum is produced through the distillation of sugarcane syrup, molasses, sugar beets, maple sap, and other sugarcane byproducts. White rum is aged for a minimum of 1 year, and gold rum is aged in wooden barrels for a minimum of 3 years. Vodka is an alcohol made from a mash of grain that is distilled at high proof. The final product must be without distinctive character, aroma, taste, or colour. Gin is a clear spirit that can have corn, wheat, rye barley, or sugarcane as a base. Gin must have a juniper berry flavour and cannot have an age claim. Tequila is distilled from the fermented juice of the blue agave plant, which resembles a cactus. Tequila can only come from a specific geographic region in Mexico, in or around the town of Tequila. If it is produced outside these areas, the spirit is called mezcal. Brandy is made by distilling wine or the fermented mash of fruit. It is then aged in barrels for varying lengths of time. It takes 10 gallons of wine to produce 1 gallon of brandy. Some brandies are aged in wooden casks, some are coloured with caramel colouring to imitate the effects of aging, and some are produced using a combination of both aging and colouring. Cognac is brandy produced in the Cognac region in France. It is made from very acidic grapes that are fermented into wine and then distilled twice within strict parameters. Cognac is a blend of many vintages. The age of a cognac is determined by the amount of time it spends in an oak cask. The label on a bottle of cognac tells you its age, starting from AC, which is 2 years old, aged in wood, all the way through to very old vintages. Armagnac is a distinctive kind of brandy produced in the Armagnac region in southwest France. It is made from wine containing a blend of grapes, and the wine is traditionally distilled using column stills rather than the pot stills used to produce cognac. The resulting spirit is then aged in oak barrels for a minimum of 3 years. Grappa is made by distilling the skins, pulps, seeds, and stems left over from winemaking after grapes have been pressed. Water is added to the residue and it is double distilled. The grappa is then stored and bottled at a young age. As with wine, the flavour of grappa depends on the type and quality of the grapes and the distillation process. Grappa was originally made to prevent waste by using up leftovers. Other fruits can also be used to produce grappa. A liqueur is an alcoholic beverage made from a distilled spirit that has been flavored with fruit, cream, herbs, spices, flowers, or nuts, and bottled with added sugar or another sweetener such as high fructose corn syrup. Therefore, liqueurs are typically quite sweet. While they are not aged for very long, they may have a resting period during production to enable the flavors to combine. Vermouth is a wine that has been infused with herbs, spices, or aromatic plants. A fortified wine are wines that have had spirits added during the fermentation process. Occasionally they are used in making cocktails. Types of fortified wines are sherry, muscat, Madeira, and Tokay. Sake is made from rice and is legally defined as a rice beer.